We live in the age of information, which means we live in the age of being constantly accessible, constantly updated, constantly informed. Any piece of information we want is literally at the end of our fingertips. And so we are, I guess, overwhelmed by information. That then, and so how do you sort of sift through that, and how do you switch yourself off in terms of the attainment of knowledge? The other side of it is that the constant accessibility and the access that people have to us by our devices means that we are available 24/7.
Welcome to another episode of the Awake Asia podcast, where each episode I share topics surrounding health, fitness, entrepreneurship, and conscious living to help you live a fitter, healthier, and more purpose-driven conscious lifestyle. In this episode, we talk to Kate Christie, a speaker, best-selling author, and maverick on time management. In this episode, we chat with how to value your time properly, learning how to delegate your work and mundane tasks to others so that you can make the biggest impact in your own hours and life. If you feel overwhelmed by all the choices and information that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, this episode will be so helpful to you. On to the episode.
Awake Asia.
5 years since we planted the seed with KPI, and I walked into a whole room full of high-level executives, business owners, and here I was, this vegan bodybuilder, personal trainer who did not know jack about business building, and now we're...
But then, seriously, the coolest guy in the room.
I don't know about that, yep. I looked up to everyone. Everyone was dressed to the nines in suits, and here I was. I just felt so insecure about who I was. Fast forward to where we are today. I mean, for you, really, the podcast is about you. My goodness, you're author of 3 books. You've appeared on every media channel, I would say, audio, video.
Yeah, lots. Yep. Look, I think, bottom line is that people need time. And I love talking about it. So it's a perfect mix.
I know your niche is time management, and even for me, being a new dad and being an entrepreneur, I still struggle to find spots to actually do what's important to me, what I actually love. For you, why did you actually decide to focus and specialize in time management?
Oh, look, the backstory was that I was that that executive that you mentioned as you walked into the room. I worked for a number of years as a lawyer, then as a senior executive, and in very sort of high performing cultures and high performing teams, and I was really brought up to seize at the day and was told by my parents and everyone around me really that you can do whatever you want, just go for it, and probably the way you're bringing your beautiful daughter up in terms of you can work hard, you can have anything you want, and that did work really well for me throughout my early career, and then things really started to change in year 2000. I can pinpoint it, where I had 3 babies in 3.5 years.
It's crazy.
And look, the wheels did start to fall off.
Of course.
And I guess I went through a process of having to reprioritize, understand what was most important to me, where I wanted to be. And at that point in time, because I had 3 really little kids, I guess I was, highly stressed and worried that I wasn't being a terrific mum, really, at that point in time. That was sort of the crisis point for me, that I just felt like I wasn't present, that when I was there, I wasn't focused on them. And I was always rushing from one thing to the next, and I wasn't enjoying any of it. And so I actually exited my, brilliant career. I made that choice that I'm going to stay home with the kids because I just felt incredibly guilty and I felt like I was doing a shitty job. And look, it was absolutely the wrong decision because I loved my job. I got a lot of self-worth and affirmation out of being a really, dynamic strategic executive. And so all of a sudden there I was with none of that, at home with 3 little kids. And, I got bored very, very quickly. And it's a real sort of crisis of conscience. But I thought, no, look, sliding door opportunity here. Sit down and work out what you're really good at, what you love doing, and basically use this opportunity to reinvent yourself. And so my first business was pretty much around helping other women like me. It was called Babysitters and More, and it was an online portal to help busy professionals, mainly women, identify and find fantastic home helpers so that they could get on and have their brilliant careers. And really, that was the program, or that was the business I entered into, KPI. That was the business I had when I met you. And through going through that program, where we really had to pick apart our businesses, understand our IP, our values, what was most important to us, what were our products, it became really apparent to me quickly through, I guess, group discussion, that really what I was about was around time and time investment, and helping people find lots and lots of hours of time with lots of different strategies. And I remember having this, it was probably like day 2 or 3 of the program, where people were saying to me, "Oh God, this is interesting. We didn't know this stuff." And I had just assumed everyone knows this.
It's always the case, isn't it?
It's like, you're probably thinking, yeah, but surely everybody knows the values of a plant-based diet and what it means
Exactly,
to be an athlete, but people don't. And it was really quite interesting for me at that time to think that I was kind of sitting on this gold mine of knowledge that I was very passionate about, but I just kind of assumed everyone knew it. And it became really apparent that everyone didn't, and that's where it all started.
Wow, that's incredible. And I'm thinking back about what you said when you had your kids, and I imagine this scenario where your kids are crying and the phone's ringing. And I think of my wife as well, because she breastfeeds Sienna, and she's cooking and holding Sienna while trying to breastfeed. I was like, just, let me do something. So, no, that's fine. You just do your thing. It's like, come on, I feel so useless here. So with that in mind, why is it so hard to sometimes just let go and just delegate?
Look, it's a really interesting question, and I think that partly it's a control thing where, I think a lot of the time we've either through sort of social environment or family environment or our upbringing or whatever, I think that there's some sort of preconditioning around roles, which I think is crazy, particularly when you've got a really hands-on partner saying, hey, let me do this stuff. I think also, to be honest, because I've worked with a lot of people on this, and this may offend some of your listeners, so I hope it doesn't. To be honest, I think that oftentimes as women, we kind of think we can do it better, or that we may be naturally better at it. And that may be the case, but I don't know whether sort of biologically that is the case. I'm sure there's studies on this sort of stuff, but anyone can learn how to, feed the child, as long as you're using bottle feeding or solids. Anyone can learn to cook the meals to help around the house. So it's sometimes I think it's just a matter of us letting go and accepting help and understanding that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to pay for help. It's okay to actually delegate and outsource some of these tasks. You don't have to do it all. And I think as women and mothers, often we put a lot of pressure and guilt upon ourselves in terms of, well, I should be, cleaning the house because it's my house, or I should be, making the meals because they're my kids, or I should be the one stirring the pot, or I should be the one vacuuming the floor and changing the linen. Well, no, just kind of take a step back, work out the things you're really good at, the things you love doing, and then that means that you're freeing up time to be kind of like a better parent and a better person. If I'm going to clean the house for 4 hours this Sunday, there's multiple costs involved in that. Firstly, my time is money. So if my time's worth, say, $100 an hour, then if I spend 4 hours cleaning the house, that's a $400 clean. I could engage a cleaner to do that clean for $25 an hour because they're an expert. They're going to do it in 3 hours. So it's only going to cost me $75. So I've saved $325, and I've brought back 4 hours of time that I can then go and spend doing awesome stuff with the kids. So it's just about looking at your time differently and kind of just letting go of the control a little.
Yeah, I want to go back to what you just said back in the day, having 3 kids. When did you choose to let go?
In terms of sort of getting help.
Yeah, getting help, actually just saying, all right, I want to have some me time.
Look, I have to be honest with that one. I was always pretty good at, say, outsourcing things like cleaning, because I just, but that was more because I just didn't have any time, because I was working full time as an executive. Once I stopped working and I was then at home, I sort of sacked the cleaner and started doing it myself, because again, I felt, oh, I should be doing this. I'm now not working, so I should be doing this myself. I bloody hated it, and I'm not very good at it. So it would have been a good 2 or 3 years after I started my business before I actually started walking my own talk and got the cleaner back. And look, there's nothing better. Honestly, there is nothing better than coming home and your house is clean from top to bottom and you haven't done it. It's just the best money spent ever. I love it. I love my cleaner. I tell her regularly how I love her and what a change and difference she makes. It's money well spent, and it's good emotional money. It's makes me feel good and happy. Plus, I'm helping someone else, who is here as a student from overseas, who's working hard to get her qualifications so she can go back to her country to be an accountant. So, it's kind of win-win all round.
I 100% agree, because we do have a helper here as well. I look at her as part of the family, and for me, a clean environment is a clear mind.
Very much so.
We are in a culture of hacks, shortcuts, everywhere we look. But all of a sudden, we've got no time.
So I think it's really a self-fulfilling prophecy, in as much as we're completely bombarded by all these hacks. Why don't we have time? Well, it's because we are completely bombarded. We live in the age of information, which means we live in the age of being constantly accessible, constantly updated, constantly informed. Any piece of information we want is literally at the end of our fingertips. And so we are, I guess, overwhelmed by information. That then, and so how do you sort of sieve through that, and how do you switch yourself off in terms of the attainment of knowledge? The other side of it is that the constant accessibility and the access that people have to us by our devices means that we are available 24/7. And so unless we build some really protective barriers around ourselves and our time, and we absolutely guard that time as the most precious resource that it is, we will be available and we won't be able to switch off. I often, when I'm speaking with my clients or I'm at speaking engagements, and I'll say, hands up who here checks their phone within sort of 10, 15 minutes of waking up. And without, time and again, it would be 90% of the audience put their hand up. Now, from my way of thinking, unless you are a first responder, a fireman or a policeman or a paramedic, you don't need to be checking your phone within 15 minutes of waking up. Because if you've got a sort of a great plan for your day and you know exactly what you're going to do, and you've built your to-do list, and you're going to start the morning on your hardest strategic work, and you've got it all planned out, the minute you check your phone, you're off course. You've lost control of the agenda, because, nothing in there in your phone is saying, well, hey, Luke, have a great day, or hey, Luke, you're awesome, or hey, Luke, go and work on your to-do list. It's I want, I need, this is urgent, when is, and you've just completely gone off track. And so if 90% of people, from my, study of put your hands up, are doing that day in and out, then of course they're never going to have time to do what they need to do, because they are being constantly reactive. They are reacting to other people's needs and other people's to-do lists, because your inbox, your emails, your messages, That's someone else's to-do list. That's not your to-do list.
Yeah, I definitely agree because I used to be one of those people where I had the phone next to me and use my phone as the alarm, which is the worst thing ever. So now I personally have set boundaries to like, all right, flight mode from 8 p.m. to like 8 a.m. so that I'm not disturbed. Because when the first thing and the last thing you see is your phone, you're like a pinball in a pinball machine. You're just kind of reacting to post, reacting to messages. You're not really being in control of your state. So I know that you've helped thousands and thousands of people with better time management. What are some of the top challenges that people face when they're time poor?
When it comes to why are you time poor, there I've done a lot of work around this and collected a lot of data on this. And people will there's sort of like, there could be 100 or 200 or 300 different things that are impacting people's time, but it really boils down to 8 or 9 symptoms that people were constantly sharing with me. And it's things like I'm constantly interrupted, or I find it hard to say no, or I struggle to prioritize, or I've got too many competing priorities, or my emails are out of control, or my meetings are out of control. They're the types of things I hear all the time. But they're just your symptoms, right? So if you talk about, well, I'm busy, or I'm time poor, or I don't have enough time, or people want too much of me, they're just symptoms. You've got to actually then boil it down and understand, well, what's the diagnosis here? So if you go to the doctor and you say, well, I'm aching and my body's sore, and I've got a headache and I've got a temperature and I'm sneezing and I've got no energy. These symptoms, the doctor's going to say, well, you got the flu. So this is what you need to do to treat the flu. And if you can get rid of the flu, all those symptoms go away. So the diagnosis that I've formulated, having worked with those thousands of people, is firstly, people are not planning to succeed. So they're not actually planning their day, their week, their month, their year, 5 years. They just are letting life and work and stuff happen to them. They're just putting fires out. The second thing is that they are not controlling the agenda. It's your life. You have to control your own agenda. Now, regardless of your business or your profession or your lifestyle, every single person has a degree of control over their time. And it's about understanding what is within your degree of control, what can I control, and making sure you can control that. A classic example, if you're not a first responder, you can control when you first check your phone. The third part of the diagnosis is that people aren't focusing on the right tasks at the right time. So they don't understand their energy rhythms. As you just talked about that a little bit yourself. If you don't understand when you are at your best, then you can't know when you need to plan and do your best, most strategic, hardest revenue generating type work. So you find that people will often say waste the morning and then start to get into the hard stuff in the afternoon when they're tired. It's the worst way of working. So the third part is actually understanding when you're at your best and putting that barrier around that time so that you can do your hardest, most important revenue generating work at that time. So they're the 3 parts of the diagnosis.
I love it, love it. I definitely want to unpack those 3. Maybe let's focus on not planning to succeed. What does your planning look like?
So at if you think about it as like maybe like a pyramid, at the bottom level, the absolute must is having a really terrific master to-do list. So and you should you either do that on like a Friday night if you're closing off the week, or a Sunday night. Don't do it on Monday morning because you're eating into your best time. So your master to-do list is just a list of every single thing you have to do. I just pen and paper it, but people can use tasks or they can use tools online. And it could have 800 things on there. I don't care how many things it's got on there. But then what you do is you identify the 2 most important things you have to do on Monday morning, and then you lock those into your calendar. So that at its base level, I have a great master to-do list. I review that every day because things change. tasks will come in, other tasks will go out. Tasks will be sitting there for 2 months and I think that's never going to get done. I'm just taking it off because it's just not happening. Or I've been putting that in the too hard basket for too long. I'm doing it tomorrow. So that is like my weekly plan. Then I have monthly goals in terms of what do I want to achieve this month. And it could be things like, well, I want to pick up 2 new clients, or I want to write 4 articles, or I want to start running 6Ks a day instead of 5Ks a day, whatever, mix of personal and work. Then I have an annual plan. What am I going to achieve this year? And that's set out on a 1-page annual planner. And it's a very iterative. So I started, at the start of the year, I understand exactly what my goals are for that year and what I'm going to be focusing on, but then I update it as I go. So as I start picking up the work that I've planned for. And then I have a 5-year plan. Where am I in 5 years? What am I going to be doing? Because I need to know that in good detail, and it needs to be audacious and hairy and awesome, because I'm only going to get to that 5-year plan if there's bits and bobs that I'm doing today and tomorrow that are going to get me there.
And I think looking ahead at 5 years, I think people, they don't even plan the day. How would they actually start doing it?
So just start with one thing and either make it a lifestyle or a work or, say, a family type goal. If it's the first time you're doing it, I'd go after something fun. So I'd go after like a family thing or a lifestyle thing. So it may be, okay, in 5 years' time, I want to be taking the family on a safari to Africa. And so you could just mind map that out where, you have your African trip in the middle, and then you start, what is everything I need to do to make sure that that trip happens? So there's going to be, I need to finance the trip. So what am I going to, and then what does that mean? Well, I may have to, if I start saving an extra $100 a month and putting it into the Africa fund or whatever, or I need to pick up X number of clients. Then there's going to be the logistical side of things in terms of, well, how long are we going to go for? Are we going to go with a tour company? Are we going to go and plan this ourselves? Which parts of Africa are we going to go to? So there's that sort of research thing. Do we need visas? Can I use my points to get plane tickets? So you start planning out and mapping it, mind mapping it pictorially so that you pick up everything that's involved in planning out that trip. And then you start to identify, well, which bits can I leverage or start doing right now? And then it opens up your mind to thinking, okay, well, this is going to be an awesome family trip, but maybe there's some blog posts I could write about this in terms that fit into my business in terms of, well, can I write a vegan cookbook around, African cuisine, or can I write a heap of posts around the people I meet who are vegans in Africa? Or can I leverage and identify some partnerships with some really cool African safari homestays where, I partner with them and maybe run a retreat for their VIP clients on vegan, lifestyle in exchange for my family staying there and getting all the bells and whistles. So all of a sudden, you're opening up all these other possibilities and ideas just by putting some planning in process.
I love it because I look at goals, it's like, all right, you look at financial goals, okay, my business, but this makes it really, really exciting and getting the whole family involved. And yeah, I mean, there's just so many other aspects that go to it. For me, I think my little thing is I go through my day being busy. At the end of the day, I look back at my day, I was just busy being busy. I was just like, I feel crap because I feel like I haven't done anything. What I've learned to do is now, okay, what will make it an epic day today? Just by writing down 3 different things that I'm going to be doing to make it an epic day. And after I take those 3 things off, at the end of the day, it feels great.
Absolutely. And that's, that's the same as the process I recommended around have your to-do list and have your 2 most important things or your 3 most epic things locked in. By the end of the week, then you've done between 10 and 15 awesome epic pieces of work or goals or whatever which is 10 to 15 more than you're currently doing if you're just reacting to the noise.
Indeed, indeed. We're both entrepreneurs, and I'm just thinking of that person that's working full time who has a family, and that person maybe wants to pursue something that they're passionate about because the job is just a dead end job. Maybe they want to do cooking, they want to go into fitness or whatever it is, but they just feel like, I can't do it. I don't really have time. What is the first thing that they can do to start moving towards that direction of where they really truly want to be?
Sure. So the framework I work people through is called SMART, and smart time investment. And so the in terms of that, step 1S is self-aware. So that's the kind of the very first thing that those sorts of, or anyone should be doing in terms of understanding where they're at right now. What's getting in the way. So, why don't I love my job? What's bothering me about my time in terms of, what's really, annoying me every single day? It could be, as I said, those symptoms. But then also understanding what your values are. What's most important to me? What would an ACE day look like? Where do I want to be spending my time? Because that gives you kind of like it gives you the point A where I'm at the moment, the point B where I want to be, and then we're going to create the roadmap. The second step, which is really critical to then finding that time, is they need to map their day in detail from the minute they get up to the minute they go to bed, just for 2 or 3 days in kind of 5 to 10 minute increments. Now, it's really tedious and it's a lot of work, but you just take an A4 sheet of paper with you as you go and just jot some stuff down in terms of every time you change task, every time you open an email, every time someone interrupts you or the phone goes.
Sort of like a food diary, but a day diary, just every single thing.
Absolutely. Good analogy. Because you can't know what changes you can make to your day until you can see exactly your day on a plate. So it's exactly like a food diary. That's a cool analogy. I'm going to use that from now on. And then step 3 is A for analyze, where you categorize each of your tasks or each thing you've done into either a must, a want, something that you can delegate or outsource, and something that you can reject. So your musts are the things you have to do that only you can do. I must get up, I must eat, I must, have this particular meeting because it's with my boss. Your wants are the things that people are doing the least of at the moment. I want to be cooking, I want to be jogging, I want to sleep, I want to have a massage, I want to see my friends, I want to hang with my kids. The delegation / outsourcing and the reject piles are where you're going to find all your lost time. And that's, a process of understanding what you can outsource or delegate and what you can reject. Then step 4, reframe, is where you basically make the decisions as to what you're going to be doing differently. What am I going to reject? How am I going to reject it? What am I going to delegate or outsource? And how am I going to do that? And then step 5 is take control. It's implementation. And as an athlete and a trainer, this, that, implementation is key. And that's why our clients, turn to us as their coaches, because we can help them get their results kind of faster and in a more sustained way. Obviously, people can do this stuff on their own. They just have to have that motivation, that mindset to absolutely implement, to, knock this stuff out of the park.
For sure. In terms of must versus want, do you find that must-dos versus want-dos, do you find that sometimes the lines are blurred for certain clients of yours? They can't really define what's a must versus what's a want.
Yeah. So look, in terms of musts and wants, people will often say, well, I must, go to work, or I must be meeting with this client, but that's also a want because I enjoy it. And I said, well, that's really cool. I'm glad, you're enjoying your job, but I want you to think about your musts as things that, only you can do, versus your wants being things that really you passionately love doing for yourself, the nice stuff. So not, if it's a client meeting or if it's a work-based task, put it down as a must. If it's something outside of that, where it's, hanging out with my daughter or socializing with a client, not because I want more business, but just because they're an awesome person, we get along well. Going and having a massage, that's a want. In terms of where people come unstuck a little bit with the sort of the outsourcing, delegating piece, is they get stuck on the how. So they think, oh God, I'd really love to, not be the person who has to do the books, or I'd really love not to have to be the person that runs the training session for new staff. But I just don't know who I could give it to, and I don't know how I'm actually going to go about that. You don't need to worry about the how at the start. The better way to approach that categorizing your list is identify everything that's up for grabs, everything that I could possibly or would love to outsource or delegate. Don't worry about how you're going to do it. Just identify in the first instance what are the things that someone else from an outsourcing delegation perspective, the definition needs to be what are the tasks where someone else who's an expert can do this stuff faster, better, and cheaper than me. So if you're in your own business and say your time's worth, say, $200 an hour, and you're an expert at, vegan athleticism and diets and stuff like that, IT might not be, your passion point, and it might not be your biggest skill. So your computer system crashes or something goes wrong at $200 an hour, where it's going to take me maybe 10 hours to fix this, versus I can probably get a really good IT person in for maybe $70 an hour, and they're going to do it in 2 hours. Faster, better, and cheaper is the definition of what you're going to want to outsource or delegate.
Definitely. I guess I'm thinking about myself now as well, because I mean, I look at this podcast. I mean, I love having the opportunity to speak to people like you and other people around the world. But at the same time, I do everything because I edit, I do graphic design, I do the show notes. I was like, oh my goodness, the interview is just a small 10% of the work. But the
Oh my
same,
God, I want to reach over and just slap
I
you.
know, and that's the thing. Like, and at the same time, I feel like I just want to let go, but I just don't know how to. Oh, I need the graphics this way. I need the size of the font this way. Being a perfectionist, being an entrepreneur, it's like you want everything a certain way, and I'm finding it hard to let go because where I am right now, I love this opportunity to chat. But at the same time, I've just got this mountain of stuff that I need to do. So maybe imagine I'm your client.
Oh
You took the book and
God.
slapped me in the head already.
I have. I've slapped you across the head. So look, the first thing is that you need to understand that your time is money. And so time you're spending, say, on the editing and the graphic design and stuff like that, even though you're juicing it up and it's looking great, and you can pat yourself on the back at the end, count how many hours that's taking you, apply your hourly rate to that, and then, have a good hard look in the mirror, Luke. The next thing I'd say is that there's opportunity cost there as well, right? So if that's taking you like 7 or 8 hours a podcast, that's 7 or 8 hours you could be interviewing 7 or 8 new guests. Or it could be 7 or 8 hours that you're actually winning new clients or whatever. Then there's emotional cost. How do I feel about this time I've just blown? And then there's physical cost and emotional cost is also, well, that's, this is 7 or 8 hours I've taken myself away from my family, and I feel shitty about that. And then there's physical cost, headache and, backache and sitting in front of John in the logos. So look at the costs and then think to yourself, okay, I need to kind of let this stuff go. This is not the best use of my time. And as an entrepreneur, you kind of owe it to yourself and your clients to be using your time really, really well. So then we get to the how. Once you've kind of accepted that there's a better way, getting to the how is, well, look, there's a stack of awesome kind of online resources that you can tap into to get this stuff done. There's amazing freelancers on, Fiverr or the Odesk, which has changed its name. What's it called? Upwork or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's Upwork now.
Yeah, there's heaps and heaps of different freelance sites. Or you tap into your community of entrepreneurs and other awesome people that you know, and you say, who has a great graphic designer? Who can recommend someone who's awesome at editing videos? Where can I tap into a source that will do end-to-end podcast editing, graphics, slicing and dicing content and production for me? And go for that sort of word of mouth referral. I'll send you an email later. I know like 3 organizations who do that sort of stuff. So, and that's, again, it's around, what am I best at? What do I love doing? Where do I want to be investing my time? What's the best use of my time? And then all the other stuff, you got to kind of let it go. Unless you want to be a podcast editor and a graphic designer and stuff, in which case, if they're wants, awesome, do it. But, I kind of suspect they're not. And it's probably just the perfectionism that's getting in your way. And so it's really around then testing the waters with some of these people that you freelance to you find the person that you trust, who understands your brand, who understands what you're doing, and then you kind of get into that really awesome rhythm. It's going to save you a fortune. It's also going to actually buy you back a heap of time.
I agree. As being an entrepreneur, you want to be a perfectionist with everything. The color needs to be hex HA5, stuff like that. But yeah, definitely taken inspiration in that after that big slap in the head, because I do feel that cut on my head. I've got a little swollen head now. Moving from that, I'm guilty of this. And I know of a lot of people that, where do I put my keys? Where did I put my wallet? Is there any tips that you can share where people are maybe like me, who are, have a poor memory, are always misplacing things around? How can we create an environment where things are just where they are meant to be?
Look, again, it's a question of discipline, but it's more so, let's just sort of step back a sec. It comes down to this bit that we're just, in inverted commas, so busy, right? Busy has sort of acquired a bit of a sort of a social standing, or a bit of a, a badge of honor. Oh, how are you? I'm busy. Oh my God, I'm busy too. And let's talk about how busy everyone is. And it's, that's not cool. Busy is not cool. Let me put it back to you this way. It's like you saying, well, hey, how are you, Kate? Oh, I'm so unproductive. I'm so unproductive too. And, because that's what you're saying. When you tell people how busy you are, you're basically saying, I'm not able to manage my time. I'm unproductive. So the other thing I'd say is that because we're so bombarded by information, we have, I think the average human has like 1,500 thoughts go through their head a minute, or something just crazy like that. So you've got to free up brain space, right? So one of the things I'd say around that, getting clarity over the simple things, there's 2 good strategies. Firstly is make decisions once. So there will be decisions that you can make every day, make them once, and then move on. So I'm always going to put, here is the tray next to the door, where I'm always going to leave my keys and my wallet and my mobile phone, or, I'm going to put them in this drawer or whatever. You make that decision once, and then you have to follow it every single day. And the other thing, the simple decisions, make them once. So what am I going to wear? Have a bit of a uniform. I've got about 4 or 5 different outfits that I will wear to meetings or on speaking engagements, and I'll just, change it up with a scarf or a pair of shoes. That's kind of my uniform. And it means that I'm not wasting 10, 15 minutes in front of the wardrobe every day thinking, what am I going to wear? So make the simple decisions once. Mark Zuckerberg does this. He always wears the same clothes, and it's because he's got like 20 of that same T-shirt, because it's just his uniform. It's a decision point that he's removed from his day. If you decide that you're going to jog every morning, then when the alarm goes off at 6 a.m., you get up and you go jogging. You've made that decision once. Don't lie there remaking that decision thinking, am I going to get up? No, I'm going to stay in bed. Oh, I must get up. Oh, I said I'd get up. Oh, no, I'll just snooze. Come on, Jesus, make the decision once. So the other thing I'd say is make simple decisions fast. Okay, so this will sort of cause a tremor with your sort of perfectionist sort of attributes, but you don't have to always toss up every different variance. If there's 2 or 3 decisions in front of you and one's going to return a 90% result, one's going to turn a 92% result, they're both good results. Just make a decision, make it once, make it fast. So make the simple decisions really fast and then move on. And if you have to kind of change them, we'll change them on the run.
It sounds like a coaching session right now, funnily enough, because I'm obviously, you're obviously the expert and obviously the client across the world right now. So the next thing is
This is why you got me on, isn't
exactly, no, it's not about the
Your own
listeners, it's
problem.
about my issues. But I'm sure they'll learn from my issues as well. Because for me, I think my little goals are being productive and ticking off those 2 or 3 things that I've set out in the morning. But it's always to learn something new, because I always believe that, every day if I could learn one thing new, I know I've moved forward in some way or form. And for me, the big one is reading. Let's sit by a couch, put some nice jazz music in the background, and read. It's such a simple pleasure, but it's impossible to find time to read. So what can you share where that's concerned?
Yeah. So, that's about identifying and understanding what your wants are. And then making time for them. And you must, that's me time. You've got to lock time into your calendar for yourself. So in the same way as you would have your calendar and you will lock your clients in, well, I'm seeing Kate at 10 and I'm seeing John at 11 and I'm seeing so and so at 2. You lock Luke into the calendar for 7 o'clock at night, or whenever it is that you love reading and relaxing. You lock yourself into the calendar, and just in the same way as you turn up for your clients, you have to turn up for yourself. So it's got to go into the calendar, and if it's in the calendar, it's kind of sacred. We don't mess with the calendar, guys. So you've got to lock yourself in and you've got to turn up.
With me time, what will you define as me time?
Me time is anything that the person wants to do for themselves. That it could involve other people. So it could be, well, I want to catch up with friends, or I want to go on date night, or I want to go and do some new learning and be involved with this awesome group of 200 entrepreneurs, or whatever. That's all me time, because it's fulfilling a self need and something that you want to do. Mine personally, my me time is going off, and I walk every day or run, depending on how my legs are feeling. um, so I do that every single morning. So I walk the dogs for an hour, and that's absolute 100% me time. And it's also sort of really good strategic thinking time, where thoughts will pop into my head, or I can just work through issues or ideas or gaps or opportunities. So that's for me. And sleep, I love sleep. So where I can, I'll get an extra hour of sleep. Massage for me as well. So they're me time. You really need to be your non-negotiables. What's the stuff I love doing, that I love doing for me?
Definitely, I'm going to start scheduling in me time, and the listeners should as well schedule in 1 hour, 2 hours of me time. Do something that you love. For me as well, I think it's about increasing output, doing as much as I can. As I mentioned earlier, having those 2 or 3 tasks that I accomplish throughout the day. And the 2 things that I do is soloing the frog. That's one, meaning that doing stuff that I hate first thing in the morning when I'm most productive. And fasting, I practice time restricted eating. So those are 2 aspects that I find actually helps increase my output. So beyond that, working with all the clients that you have, what other hacks in that sense can you actually share to help people feel like, wow, I've really conquered this day?
There's hundreds, Luke. There's so many. It's about managing and controlling interruptions. It's about batching your time into chunks of time to deal with similar or like issues. It's around, things like identifying the people who are the saboteurs of your time, and having a polite discussion with them around, this is how you're impacting my time. It's about working and getting your kids to do stuff, insourcing tasks. Family's a team sport, so it's about identifying what you're going to do, what the kids are going to do, and working as a team around the house. Strategies around how to say no, understanding the costs on your time, understanding the impacts of multitasking. There's just so many different time hacks. And what I would say to your listeners is identify, 1 or 2 things that kind of really resonate with them, and implement those first. So if they think, oh, well, I want to map my time and understand that, do that for a couple of days and get it right, and then, move on to the next thing. Don't sit there. It's interesting. My latest book is called Smart Time Investment for Business, and the tagline is 128 ways the best in business use their time. So there's 128 strategies in there, like little bits and bobs. And the thing is, don't go and write those 128 strategies down, and because that's just going to join the list of 800 things that you're never ever going to do, right? So, with that sort of stuff, just pick one or two things that really, really resonate and get them right first, and then move on to the next strategy. And you'd be the same with your clients and your business in terms of, well, let's get this part of your diet right first, or let's get this part of your training program right first. Once you've really nailed that, you feel that sense of momentum and uplift and enthusiasm. It's like, oh God, this shit works, and it keeps you motivated. So it's one step at a time, guys.
Yeah, I love it. One step at, I mean, that's the thing. It applies to your work and time management, but also with fitness, nutrition. So I guess if this person is listening right now and feeling extremely overwhelmed, where you were before, in the dark days, what would you say to them?
Yeah. Look, I guess what I would do is I would reassure you that there is a better way, and that there is an outcome, and that there is a process that you can follow to actually regain control of your time. But you need to invest some of your time to find your lost time. So, just like you can't, bench press, 200 kilograms, without having worked through a process. So you have to invest some time to find your lost time, but you will, okay? There are lots of different strategies. Start with the 5 steps that I talked about earlier. Take yourself through that, or have a look at my website, or give me a call or whatever. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's about understanding and perhaps, moving away from a mindset of I need to manage my time to embrace a mindset of I want to invest my time. So time's not there to be managed, guys. Your time is a precious, limited resource that nobody, regardless of how savvy or wealthy they are, can buy more of. And so you need to start thinking about and treating your time the way you treat your money, as a precious resource that needs to be invested for the greatest possible return. So I'm not going to manage my time anymore. I'm going to invest my time. How can I get the most out of it? You will then start actually finding time, because once you change that mindset, you start being less tolerant of all the crap that steals your time.
Let's say if someone that's listening, for example, a mom or dad, we talked about me time, about doing what's important and what you love doing, but they feel guilty. What would you say to them?
Yeah. And look, that was kind of my lived experience. I gave up my awesome previous career through that sort of level of guilt. So what I would say is that you will only ever be the best version of you. You will only ever be the best mum or best dad if you are also happy and have a sense of fulfillment, and if you feel that you're setting the right example for your kids. And in my view, you can only have and be all those things if you are carving out time for yourself to do the stuff that actually makes you feel happy and fulfilled and the best version of you.
I love it, Kate. Well, thank you very much. I'm inspired. After this, I'm actually going to start looking at who I can reach out to do all the 4 hours of work that might follow this.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing more of your success in this space, because it all comes back down to where time is concerned. It comes back down to the simple things: spending time with your family, with your loved ones, reading a book, meditating, and just breathing.
Just being in the moment and enjoying it, and, living your absolute acist life.
Indeed. So how can people get in contact with you, Kate?
So my website is called Time Stylers, TIME, timestylers.com. Or they can, and all information about me is on there, including my books and my programs, my speaking. and or they can email me at kate@timestylers.com.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, Luke.
That was truly an inspiring episode, and I know personally I'm going to make many changes to how I run my life and value my time. Hopefully, you'll find that just as important as I did and make changes to your life to make things easier and less cluttered. Thank you so much, Kate. If you think anyone can benefit from this information or the work that Kate does, share this episode with them. For more information, any links or resources mentioned in this episode, or to find out how to connect with Kate, visit awakemethod.com/podcast. Until the next one, live once, eat plants.